bit like I always say it's a bit like the red light syndrome when you're in the studio, like you
I
hit
like
record.
the red light. It helps you focus.
Do you know what? When you kind of lean into the red light, it's like playing to a click. Like people hate playing to a click, but when you learn how to play to a click, it's lovely.
Really, who hates playing to a click? What's going on? What kind of people do you know, Tim?
People that can't play in time. Anyway, Stefan, how are you, man?
I'm great. I'm buzzing. I just came back from my training this morning in Guildford with my coach, who is merciless, and that's how I want him to be. That's a good coach.
What's the training?
I'm a singles badminton player.
Really? Okay. All right. So I love talking to people, particularly musicians, who do something that they love that is not related to music at all. So how did you get into badminton?
Well, that was an interesting journey. My wife is very sporty and she's very strong and very fit. And
Yeah.
we tried to find something that we can do together. And I go, well, let's have a go at badminton. So we tried that. She absolutely hated it. And I absolutely loved it. And ever since I'm running with it. So
Okay.
since my mid-30s,
Yeah.
playing singles badminton, had a few good coaches. And for the past 5 years, I have a great coach who was the world champion in, I think it's called racquetball, which is a sport, I think, invented in Sweden, where you compete in ping pong, tennis, badminton, and squash. And he won that in his, like, I think, early 40s. So
Wow.
he's like and he's now like a well-known established badminton coach, but he's a good, tough nut. And he's probably the only person in the world that can talk to me like he does, you know? And I go, and I stay stum and I'll take it because I want to get better. Yeah, so it's great fun. Pretty obsessed about it. I do that like 2-3 times a week, train very early in the morning. So following on your question, how are you? I'm good because I'm still buzzing from that session this morning.
That's cool. So I mean, I think when you're learning anything new, you get caught in the Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you heard that?
No, what is that?
So
Please
it's
explain.
it's a graph. So across the bottom you've got time on the discipline, whatever it is, and then at the top line you've got confidence, like how good you think you are. And when you start off a new subject, you know nothing, so you're at 0. Then after, say, you do it for a couple of weeks, you get really confident. You're like, I am fucking crushing this. And then as the time goes on, you start to dip and you realize, oh, I'm crap. I'm shit. Oh my God, this is harder than I thought. And then you have as you keep progressing, you just have this nice gradual kind of rise. And I imagine, like, when I'm teaching someone guitar, like, they get a couple of songs down, they're right at the top, and then we move on to bar chords, and then it just nosedives.
Here comes B flat.
Yeah.
Good
luck.
That bar chord.
Yeah.
I like it. Can I just pose it? Interesting. What did you say it was called?
The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger, because I know kind of very similar. Maybe it's the same about the sort of the 4 stages of proficiency, where you unconsciously incompetent, and then you become consciously incompetent, and then you become and then you end up with. In the end, it all ends up with the more you know, the less you know, but the more you know that you know nothing, right?
Yes.
The more you know, it's like, that's why I think jazz is fascinating, because if you would talk to any of the guys, Coltrane, Parker, Gillespie, all the greats that are gone, if you talk to them and go, hey, do you think you have arrived? And they would go like, yeah, man, I've done some good stuff, but I want to check this thing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the beauty. I mean, they were masters, but that's also part of the master to keep on wanting to study and understanding. There's lots of music. And Mars is a huge influence on me, because he was great. Each decade he came up with something new he wanted to do. And also he wanted to hang out and make music with younger musicians to not get stuck. And I really, really admire that spirit. And he's done a lot of different types of music. So Mars is actually, he's for me the almost like the poster boy for what we're just saying.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to jazz, I'm still very much in the early phase of jazz. So I'm still listening to, let's say still. I'm still listening to kind of blue, early Wes Montgomery. So I'm kind of in the 50s and 60s kind of jazz era, which it's like when I tried to learn jazz, I tried to learn it because I thought I had to because I saw people on the internet saying, you should learn jazz, you should do this. And I thought, okay, so I've got to learn it from a purely, either from a job perspective, but I never learned it because I was listening to it and I enjoyed it. And that's why I always struggled with it. But then when you start listening to it, because you just start to dig those records, you start to hear those sounds and you start to want to emulate those sounds, then learning it becomes so much easier.
Yeah, I guess it's where you want to go in music, because I think I know I'm not in education anymore, I used to be, but in the past, some tutors or professors, depending on where they were teaching, they use jazz as a vehicle for proficiency, to basically learn your scales and your chords and chord harmony and theory. And that's cool. At the same time, it's also really important to go with what people actually like to listen to and what they like to hear and where they like to go with their own journey, right? So there is I think the danger with jazz is often that you can get caught up in the proficiency and the technicalities and the huge theoretical underbelly of the music, rather than digging the music for what it is, like emotionally enjoying the music.
Yeah.
And they're very different things. I think. I mean, to me, jazz is absolutely fascinating because it's like it's an endless pursuit of knowledge, but also how to self-express spontaneously. And I think it's a great art form. I have been in love and out of love and back in love with jazz for now what the better part of. Well, hey, I just realized I bought my first bass 40 years ago in 1984.
Okay. Wow.
Man, yeah. And because my dad, bless him, still with us, he gave me Sketches of Spain, Miles Davis, on vinyl. And we had this thing at Christmas in my school. I went to business school, and you had to bring an album in. And I brought that album in, and everybody thought I was like totally weird because you couldn't hear this type of music on radio. So, I mean, nobody would have known who this man is. Who's this guy with the trumpet, Miles Davis? And I go like, guys, you got to listen to it. Stop listening to whatever they play on radio right now. No matter how good it is, you got to listen to this. And that was cool to grow up with that. And then a friend gave me what you just said, Kind of Blue. And he gave me that very early on, very mid-'80s. And I loved that. I was hooked by the sort of mesmerizing, the opening of the album. You go, hey, what's going on here? It's like, what's happening,
Yeah.
And then I studied jazz a lot, and then I kind of fell out of love with it because I kind of felt like it's too hard and I can't put enough of myself into it. And in recent years, I've really come back to it because I think I'm at a different stage now where I actually hopefully managed to put some of myself into the music.
Yeah.
Rather than having the theoretical knowledge or even the proficiency, like on the instrument, rather than being able to run your fingers on the board, basically being a guitarist, a bassist, to actually evoke something with it. And that's like really, that's hard, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's the area when I think about playing jazz. Like, I'm okay. I can comp chords. I can read a chord chart. I can play the head of a tune. I'm okay with that. But when you really want to follow the changes, and if you want to follow them and create something that's good to listen to, I think that's where I struggle.
Do you know what? Like, I mean, as I said, I'm not teaching right now. I haven't for a while, but a really easy. I mean, hack is like a very popular word, and I already used it, so I might continue with that. Playing over standards, I think, is an inroad. Just take the melody and start embellishing the melody.
Yeah.
It's astonishing to me. I've heard many people play jazz, and many jazz students, you have to, and I'm partially guilty of that too, I might say. So you hear the tune and it has a gorgeous head, and then, the soloing starts, and the solo is immediately, completely, totally, utterly removed from the tune.
Yeah.
And that's like older jazz is very cool like that, Louis Armstrong, and that, when you have the tune, but then the soul is very much strongly related to the tune. And I think that's a good in for students. When you play a song, like, I don't know, any old song,
Summertime,
all the things, summertime, take that and start to play around with that. Summertime, take some of the sort of pentatonic ideas and just play them a fifth of way.
Okay.
Cool. Rather than playing ACD, you play E G A, what is it? E G A B, and all of a sudden you got a different vibe. But it's the same what you already know. It's just different. So before anyone goes really heavy on sound and go, oh yeah, and you can then just superimpose, this sort of sheet of sounds per culture, and you go, what is all that? It's not a good in. And so the key is to find a simple inroad, isn't it? And that I think is a good one to simply go right. Or if it's too fast, right? You're playing a tune like Cherokee and it's too fast. So don't try to be Charlie Parker. Just try to make up another meaningful melody, which is based on the one you just heard.
Yeah. Okay, I will give that a try. I think that's sound advice.
I'm not sure. I'm practicing jazz every day, and as you said earlier on, this Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger, yeah.
Practice again, the more I go, oh man, this is like absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Really easy. Then playing along to the original records. When I grew up, you had the real book, and people had the real book, the 5th edition real book, or 6th edition, I don't know, 5th edition, I think. And but it was very difficult to get a hold of the original music. It wasn't like you could hear it on radio, could look it up, or even I used to go to the public library, but I didn't have a lot of these records.
Yeah.
So I was actually playing the music just like other people played it, and you went to a jam session and you played it like they played it, but I've never heard the original. And now where you can access like super B cards, lost recordings, you can play along to the originals and you realize, oh my God, I've been playing this song for 35 years completely wrong.
Yeah.
Or for example, Recorder Me is a standard, and the way they phrase it on the original is completely different than what I hear people play or jam it out, including myself. The phrase is completely different, same notes. So I'm always reminded, so stick on the original and go, oh my God, I've been playing this wrong for,
Yeah. But is it wrong, or is it just an interpretation? It's a bit like Chinese whispers. When you hear one person play it, if they're just reading it off the lead sheet and they play it one way, and then you slightly vary it, then someone else does the same. You get 10 players down the line, and you're actually playing two different things.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, wrong has a lot to do with your aims and your goals. To some people, right or wrong is defined by, I want to get as close as the original. Some other people's wrong is when they actually the opposite. The wrong would be to try to copy or emulate it in any way. That's the wrong. The right would be make up your own music. So it depends on your aims.
Really. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what I guess, your purpose as well. I mean, because if you're doing a gig where you're being paid to play, I don't know, let's say you're doing a tribute show, the aim should be to get it as close to the record. But if your aim is to try and come up with your own ideas and try and use it as a tool for learning, then I think, I mean, I was never anyone that learned anything unless I was paid to or told to. I never learned anything note for note, 100%. I took like the main ideas. And if there's like a pentatonic flurry, or like, okay, well, that's just a pentatonic flurry, I'll get as close as I can. I'm not going to spend all day getting it note for note, rhythmically exact, because I'll just get the main idea. But if there's, I'll take all the themes, but I'm not going to waste all day trying to get it like rhythmically perfect. Or
totally. And that's the beauty how people approach music. I talked to, do you know a guitarist called Mike Outram?
No.
He's a spectacular jazz guitarist. I think he's teaching at Guildhall. I talked to him before a gig. We played a gig, and I said to him, "Hey, what you've been doing?" And I might slightly exaggerate that, but just to make the point. But it was actually pretty close to that. I said, "So what have you been practicing?" And he said, "I've learned all the Charlie Parker heads during COVID in all keys by heart."
Fucking hell!
And I go, all right.
Right. Jesus Christ.
But that's the person he is. And what you just described, what you're doing is that's the person who you are. And that's like, if I make a sweeping point, that's the beauty in music, because the way in, there's so many way ins and out, and it's beautiful. And I always I like the analogy of like music is like this sort of like massive deep ocean, and everybody goes to different phases in their life. And sometimes the ocean is just like a line in the distance, right? You're like way inland and you don't even see the ocean anymore.
Yeah.
Because the music is far away. But then sometimes, and then you see the beach and you get close and then put your toes in, and sometimes you go for a deep dive. And the nice thing with music, it's always there for you, no matter where you are in life, right? The music is always there for you. You can take a breather, you can deep dive, you can just like walk along the shore. I love that. And everybody's different. And the longer you make music, I don't think anybody's ever like stayed deep dive. Like, I mean, on the maybe exceptional, super exceptional genius people who like managed to deep dive for 80 years, which is pretty extreme. And those are like the titans, and probably Coltrane did that, and Parker did that, and Parker had a very short life. But generally, in terms of approaching music and music being there for you, it's always there for you. You can engage with it as much or little as you like, and it will never let you down. You can always come back. And I experienced that because I've been playing for 40 years now. And there were times where it's further away and times where it's very close. At the moment, the later half of this year, it's been super close again, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm playing tunes that I didn't want to play when I was a student because they were, for me, just like above my pay grade, and I never touched them. I kind of kept them at arm's length. Giant steps, countdown,
Right.
difficult Coltrane tunes. I mean, I did play them. My fingers played them, but my mind and my ears didn't play them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Played them. But now I think like I'm a step further where I can play them beyond running my fingers with the right notes across the board.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so in terms of practice, what does your practice look like other than badminton?
Badminton, yeah. I had times where I practiced a lot more badminton than I practiced bass. Not that I wasn't busy playing bass, but in terms of practice. But I realized I do like to play in life. That's for sure. I play badminton. I play music. So there's a lot of play typically. So it suits me. So, but what's really important to me is that my days are very busy. I run numerous things. I run a band, and I run the mastering sessions. We create live in the studio videos, and I've got my own little indie label, RSP Records. So there's a lot of things to do for me. And what I learned over the years, in order to stay effective with my practice, I need to do it in the morning, because my mind needs to be, my cup needs to be full, so I can emerge with that fully, like immerse myself in the practice. If I'm waiting too long and I go, well, I'm doing sort of the practice in the evening, then I often feel like, wow, so like my best thoughts and sort of the sharpness is gone. And when I practice, I don't want to just run my fingers. I want to really engage with like full like awareness. And it works really well in the morning. So normally, if I wouldn't have had the podcast now, I would be like in my practice room down where my piano, my basses, and my amp is. I have a setup that mirrors my life setup, and I would sit down and I would play. I would go through a lot of different things. I really like to use, what am I using at the moment? I like to use, is it called iRealbook?
Yeah.
Real book, it comes with some like really cool exercises. You can practice your dominant chords, your alter dominant chords. You can practice some standards, and I like to alter the keys. Like that's the thing I'm focusing a lot on, playing everything in every key.
Yeah. So I never did that, and I know that I'm a worse musician because of it.
No, but you can't. I mean, I don't know what kind of music you play, but you can't say that. And because if you need it, I mean, do you know like those are the circle fifths? You're starting with the C dominant chord, and then it goes like to the lots of sharps and lots of flats. You can really feel how like the repertoire, you become a little bit diminished when you're going like down. You're going down the circle and you go, ooh, it gets a bit thinner here.
Yeah.
And then you're coming out of it really strong because you're coming out with the sharp keys for guitar and bass really good. The open string keys like A, E, A, D, and G, and then I feel good again.
Yeah.
And then it goes down to the Stevie keys, like, Stevie Wonder get like D flat major and G flat major, and all down there, like,
Yeah.
all the flat keys, and then the repertoire goes a little bit out of the window. And to get that equal, I really realized I also practice with other people sometimes, and we do those exercises, and you see how the vocabulary goes slightly thinner with those chords, So that's really important for me. So I'm doing a lot of practice in. Yeah, I do this every day. All keys, that's very important, but also all chords, the important chord structures, like dominant seventh and major seventh, and half diminished and diminished, and major seventh chords and Lydian chords. So that's really important in all keys to have repertoire for all those, and then trying to put it together when you're playing a whole song in a meaningful way, rather than sounding like a typewriter.
Right. So when you said you're doing those chord, are you doing chord voices? Are you going, right, I'm going to go C7, then I'm going to go around the cycle of fifths just in seventh chords? So you're going C7, F7, B flat 7?
Absolutely, precisely that. And I really think it's great because it gives you the option to do that. They also do what the turnarounds, like sequences of 2/5 chords with resolutions or without resolutions, and that sort of thing. I think that's really handy. There's also a very early Aebersold where it's just, I think it's stone old. It's called Turnarounds and Cycles, I think it's called. And it does exactly that. It takes you to, when you come to the end of a tune and you often have a 1/6-2/5, it's like 1/6-2/5. It's such a cornerstone of jazz compositions of the last century and still today. So that's really important that you have like something up your sleeve for 1/5 in B major or G flat major or D flat major, like the sort of like the less loved keys.
Yeah.
For string players anyway,
Yes, I mean, I've done a few shows this year, and
good on you.
Yes, I mean, it was at the start of this year. I was like, I want to do more shows, more theatre shows, more pad work, more reading.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was sort of practicing all of my reading, I'd go through just the real book, and I go, right, I'll do everything in C. So I'll go through the whole pad and just read everything in C. Then I'll read everything now in F. Now I read everything in G. Like, if they were manageable. If it was like fucking insane, I was like, right, I'll just skip that one. And then when I started to get to like E flat, D flat, G flat, I was like, do you know what? I'm not going to get any songs in that. And then I got the pad, I opened it up. It's like the first song is in fucking G flat.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
Well, it totally loads because it has so much to do with singing. The minute you involve singers, you get funky keys. I remember I did a gig where like, what we're doing? Oh yeah, don't worry, just come, Steph. We're playing standards. You know them all. What kind of standards? Oh yeah, Autumn Leaves, Blue Bossa, Girl from Ipanema. Go
Yeah.
Oh, when I come and I feel like Coca Shore, here I come, and I go, right, let's play Girl from Ipanema. Yeah, no problem. What's the key? Just to double check. D flat. Girl from Ipanema, D flat.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's exactly. So, West End material and also big band charts often like, them keys, D flat major.
Yeah.
So, and Stevie's songs, so many of them are like not great, because of the lots of black key stuff like E flat minor and all that. So, yeah, keys, very important.
Yeah.
I love them. And it makes me laugh, after all this time, you just go where if you're honest with yourself, which is a very, very important thing. I think every musician should be honest with himself. Then you go, I think I am lacking on my D flat and G flat diminished chords repertoire,
Yeah. But you know what, when you do a gig like that, it just highlights everything that you need to go back and work on. So it's like, all right, okay, well then I'll just spend the afternoon working through A flat and D flat stuff.
Well, you're good, I mean, I know you don't mean it precisely that, because what I've realized, and I discuss this with my mates when we play jazz gigs, for me, for any of the repertoire that I'm practicing at home to actually find the gig, I really need to do that for at least 2 weeks, if not a month. Because as soon as you go, hey, this is a really cool lick, and I'm going to practice this thing through all keys for a few days, and then I play a gig, and that lick, it ain't coming to the gig.
Yeah.
It's,
half of it's left at home.
Exactly. And that has all to do with how long, I mean, in my opinion, for myself, how long you spent with it. A friend of mine, actually, it was Pete. We talked about Julian Lage, is that his name?
Yeah.
Super duper incredible, out there, beautiful. I mean, what a guitarist, right?
Yeah.
And Pete told me a story about him, read an interview with him, and he said, well, first, it was about practicing, not dissimilar to what we're talking about. And he said, well, first of all, I just stick on jazz blues and I play for an hour. Just I play for an hour. And then I start to get into it.
Yeah.
Because that is the first hour, he plays everything that he already knows. And then it gets interesting because then he runs out. Then he has played everything, what is his standard. When you pick guitar, you tune up with all these habits. And we do what we've done 1,000 times. So he kind of empties the cup, so to
Yeah,
speak, and then he gets into, I've never tried that. And that's what his practice is. He goes to what he doesn't know yet, and he works on that. Otherwise, you're stuck. And I mean, obviously, I'm nowhere near that. I'm not really like a jazz musician. My career is not in jazz, although I performed and played. But I realize when I go to a gig, often when I get tired, then I hear myself play and I go, man, you played there 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not that I haven't practiced new things, you know. I'm sitting there and practice this and I practice 2/5 lick and from this guy, or at the moment there's a lick that's fine that I haven't played at a gig yet, but it's coming in. It's a Freddie Hubbard lick over a ballad, a double time lick over 2/5, and I practiced it. Oh my God, I don't know how long I've been practicing this year. Every day for 15 minutes. Do you think I had played that lick once yet? Exactly. So for me, it's time. I need to have the time for the things to sink in. It's coming back to what I said about my early practice. When I'm practicing, when I'm already tired, this sort of adventure, this exploration of new ideas is impaired because my brain power is diminished after the whole day of doing all the other things I'm doing. I'm not sure if it helps or hinders.
No, it's for me. It takes a while for things that I practice to seep into my playing, but they do seep in. But like the whole thing doesn't come in. Like little snippets will come in. But like you, I've got one lick that I use every single time, and every time I play it, I'm like, you gotta play something different. But I'll do it in multiple songs, in multiple keys. I'll keep doing it. It's like people must hear the same fucking lick. You gotta come up with it. It's like an amalgamation of like one of Mark Knopfler's licks on the Sultans of Swing solo mixed in with like a little Marty Friedman run. And I put the two things together, and it sounds really cool. And I love playing it. I still love the sound of it, but I'm like, you fucking got to do something else. But that idea of just playing until you run out of ideas and then you start to explore the new stuff, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I spoke to Stuart Ryan a few months ago. I don't know if you know Stuart.
I do not.
He's like just an astounding acoustic guitar player, but like a great country player, great soul, R&B, like just fucking fantastic player. And we were talking about there's this habit. I don't know if it's the same with bass players, but for guitar players, we get in this habit of once we learn a scale, we'll learn a particular shape in a particular area, but then we want to expand it across the neck. Like that's going to solve our problems. When we start hitting roadblocks, we're like, well, I obviously just don't know more of the scale. So I'll just learn it in all of my positions. And that's not a bad thing. But he was saying it like it actually compounds the problem, because if you're having problems in a small area of the neck, expanding it isn't going to make it any easier. It's going to make it worse. So what you want to try and do is stay in the little shape and try and be as creative and as melodic as you possibly can. And then when you run out of ideas, then start to explore outside.
Yeah, I mean, that is is it pedagogical, is that the word? Principle of that limitation is expansion. And you hear it a lot, that you focus on tiny, tiny things in order for you to go further. There's a great book which I love for many years now by the Boston trombonist called Hal Crook, and he wrote a few books, but this one is funny. The title is funny. Ready, Aim, Improvise, it's called, and he's got a ready, aim, improvise, and he's got a chapter in there which says precisely that. It says limitation is expansion, and I go, oh, what's that all about? So and he's exactly like, did you say Steve? Stuart. Yeah, it's exactly that. Focusing on a tiny element and really getting deep into it and taking that and almost mastering this tiny element and then go further. And I loved it, and I can see that that's like with the sport, and particularly with like, because I know it better. Like with badminton, the same thing. We go in such micro detail, and we're trying to really. You go, well, why? Most people go like, I'm not going to do that. I just want to hit that thing. And we do things which are going to seem completely mad, but they're necessary for the big picture. So we are limiting ourselves. And with what you said about the tiny bit on the fretboard, and I, this is something I work a lot with for myself, and I used to with others, like that when you have scales and you go in, when you're looking at the fretboard, it's this sort of diagram, and you go in, what's the word? You can vertically. And because standard bass is 4 strings, so you have to kind of explore the horizontal concept. You have to learn how to play 2.5 octave, 3 octave scales. You can't do it like a guitarist. You can't. I can't just come down.
Yeah.
You have to use the length of my fretboard to get the lines in. And that takes quite a bit of doing, because all the fingerings, they change. That technically changes, but also very importantly is, as you know from guitar, same thing, that the sound is changing. It's so critical where you play it. Whether are you playing a certain lick, are you playing ahead, are you going to play it on the top strings, on the thinner strings, the E's and the G's and the B's, or are you taking the same thing and you're taking it really high up on the lower strings?
Yeah.
Different sustain, different tone. And I find it fascinating where to play things for the sound.
Yeah.
Because at first I was very, like a younger player, I was very visually, and this is the beauty and the downfall of stringed instruments like guitar and bass, that you can get a result so quickly. But looking at a diagram and go, right, if I put my finger here, I'm going to make that sound.
Yeah.
But what you're negating is, what does it sound like?
Yeah.
It's super different sound. So it's more like, what do you want to sound like, and then find it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are the kind of, like, they're kind, for me, those are the kind of deep dive lessons. Like, if I teach students scales, like, I'm nowhere near telling them, okay, but you can also play the same scale.
Oh, yeah.
Same note, same pitch. Yeah, we're not there yet.
No,
but I heard a really interesting, I think it was an interview with Steve Lukather, who told his son, spend 5 years playing rhythm guitar, don't bother playing lead guitar, because you've got to get all of your rhythm chops down. And I think that's something that is also not necessarily dismissed, but it's not looked upon in as much detail, especially guitar players. We all just want to play licks, fast runs, tapping, and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, just getting rhythm down, basic rhythm. I think there's an area that isn't really being catered to. I don't think.
Well, it sounds like you're catering to it, because
I'm a big proponent of it. But I've gone in, I've done not depth gigs, but like, I've done teaching covers where I've had to cover someone's teaching because they were off sick, and I'd look through their book, and these are like beginner students, and the amount of just one string riffs that I see, like playing Black Sabbath across one string in the wrong key, or Smoke on the Water, or Happy Birthday. I'm like, why the fuck are we doing this? Like, you're never going to use that. Play me a G chord. And I can't play a G chord. Like, how long have you been playing? 2 years. That's fucking shocking.
It is. Yeah, I think I agree. Rhythm guitar sometimes feels like sort of the, maybe it's like sort of from the golden days of rock and roll, where you had like someone like Angus Young and Malcolm Young, and Angus, of course, being the lead guitarist, takes all the shine, and Malcolm, although we all know that Malcolm, I mean, bless him, he's not here anymore, but Malcolm, he was the Don, man, because his sound and his feel,
yeah,
without him, Angus, I mean, when they did the dual riffing on the same thing, I mean, that was just, I mean, it is, I mean, on the records, it's just like absolutely godlike. But I think the rhythm guitarists, like the bassists, they were always like this sort of, they're the lesser pawns. We need them for the machinery to work, but the glory, on the vocals, the glory is the vocals, the lead guitarist, and the drums, and the others. I'm being like, this is reductionist, these are cliches. So, the keyboard artist, a nerdy guy, but we need like a nerdy guy. And the bass, he's the wooden guy in the back. And the rhythm guitarist, well, he doesn't quite have the personality, so he can tuck away in the back. And I think that there's some leftovers of that, sort of the hierarchy of how important it is. But for people in the know, like us, we know rhythm guitar is like, I mean, that's the thing, I don't want to hear anyone play a lick if they haven't like shown that they can actually play, like, let's talk about time. I mean, everything, you can hear people like play all sorts of stuff, but if it's not in time, if it's a lead guitar or rhythm guitar, it's useless. I mean, useless. And I find it funny as a bassist, traditionally in jazz, again, I'm not a per se jazz player, but you had the double bass, and the double bass was very loud. So every time the double bass player takes a solo, everybody comes over the instruments. The guitar comes off, the piano comes off, the drummer changes from the right to the hi-hat, everything goes quiet so the bassist can do his solo that hopefully we can hear because it's so quiet, right? And then for me as an electric bassist makes me laugh. So when I start to play an electric bass solo, that like in the past, people drop out left and right around me, go like, hey, what's going on? The whole thing breaks down. I go like, so like, I'm happy to be, it's a flipping comment, but I like it. I'm happy to be a rhythm slave. No problem. That's what I sign up for. That's why I love bass, right?
Yeah.
But when I want to play a solo, can somebody please like now provide? I want to hear really good comping. Like I want somebody to play great chords right behind me and drive the machine. That's what I normally do. So it's always like bass solo. It feels like the whole thing is breaking down, like, building collapsing. It's like, hey, I'm an electric bass player. It's not 1940 Fender double bass player. It's going to be an electric bass solo. You guys can stay on the instrument.
Yeah.
I played a gig in the summer. It was at a festival. I forgot the name of the guitarist. He lives down Portsmouth way. Great sort of gypsy guitarist. And he was great because we played as a trio, sax, guitar, bass. And when I soloed, he kept it going. He did this gypsy. I'm not sure if he's still allowed to call it gypsy music. Sorry if I'm offending anyone. The music, no, I don't know what it's called. The very, very fast.
No, I think you're okay. Yeah. I think you're okay. Gypsy jazz, yeah.
And it was driving like a train. And I was like, I love this. Because normally that's what I do. Or that's what I try to do. So other people can hop on my train. But I could hop on his train, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So this long speech leads back to your point. Yes, rhythm guitar is the absolutely, don't come through the gate if you can't play rhythm guitar.
Yeah, I know. Well, when I was at, because I studied at the ACM, and we had,
good Lord,
many years ago, we had. I think you were on the tutor list then. This would have been 2002, 2003.
Yeah, I mean, I was the head of the bass department there for 13 years.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Was that Robra?
Say that again. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, there was a fairly new sparkly Robra building.
I think it was the first, maybe second year that it was used.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
But yeah, we had Eric Roach. It was
God bless him.
God, yeah, bless him, man. And one of his, I always remember, like there was a couple of things that he said that will stick with me forever. He said, "There's only two things you need to do to play music: is play in tune and play in time, and everything else is up to your artistic vision. But if you can't do either of those, you're not playing music. I don't know what you're doing, but you're not playing music." I was like,
"It's good."
I was like, "All right, okay."
But it's very.
But it's true. Like if you listen to something that's out of tune, you're like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but I'm turning off. Likewise, if you hear something that's not in time, it doesn't matter how good it is, it's still shit.
Yeah, I mean, we all can do that on our forum.
Yeah, and that's something that I try and instill in all of my students. It's like, lesson 1, maybe lesson 2, I haven't played to a click.
Yeah, I want to come back to it because you said earlier, I mean, maybe it was just sort of a quick remark, but you said everybody hates to play to a click. I mean, why do you say that?
I don't know. I think that's probably left over from when you do gigs with people. Like in the early days, there was a lot of people that would say, I don't like playing to click, particularly drummers. I don't like playing to click. I don't like the feel of playing to click. And I guess I think that's true. It's just people that can't play it to a click don't like playing to it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But once you learn how to do it and you can manipulate the click a little bit, you know how to push and pull and drop back, or you just have the clicking on 2 and 4.
Yeah, I think that note, having talked about Miles Davis before, I think it's about deliberation, isn't it? Because Miles said, "Fear not, there are no wrongs. There are no wrong notes," or something. Oh, don't fear wrong notes. There aren't any, or something like that. Which, of course, you could say, like, okay, it's easy to say for him. He's Miles Davis, but I think the underlying point is that it's about deliberation. When somebody plays by accident a D flat note on a C major 7 chord by accident, you can see how their whole body implodes because they play a note they don't want and they feel it's wrong, and you can hear that. But when Miles played a D flat or like some other more irregular note over C major 7, he was so deliberate, and that's why you can embrace it. And it's the same with time. There's some people who do some really odd things with time, but it's deliberate. And you can normally feel it, and you don't have to be a musician to feel it. And I think also the audience, the unknown public, even if they have no training at all, they sense the intent. So if somebody like intentionally pulls the time back or plays something really out of time, which can be cool, it's about the intention. But you can't intend anything if you don't have the base skill set. And a lot of the things we're talking about, or I talk about, are about you have to have a base level proficiency. Otherwise, all this means nothing.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't tune your guitar and you can't play C major triad to G major triad in time to a click, then there's work to do before you can get to any loftier concepts, I'd say.
Absolutely. And I think it's...
Of course, it sound like very elitist saying that.
No, I don't think so. Those kind of ideas and those kind of concepts and those thoughts, they don't sell tickets, do they? They don't sell Instagram clicks. They don't sell YouTube videos. So they're not talked about. Whereas like these amazing technical, sweeped arpeggios or tapped harmonics, those things sell tickets. And so that's, I don't know, I just feel that is what is driving music, particularly today with social media and Instagram and
it's like
30-second reels, and you've got a tiny attention span.
You want to get into it because that's fun. Do we have the time? You go, boy, this Stefan guy, Pete wasn't wrong about him. He likes to talk. Anyway, you tell me when you had enough of my ramblings. But a point on that, of course, there is incredible proficiency out there, and we see that on TikTok and Instagram. Those in a very short amount of time, you see something incredible. And to me, it's I like some of it. I personally like some of it, and I go, wow, that's like pretty impressive. Look what they can achieve, or what kind of proficiency have they achieved on the instrument. And at the same time, a lot of it that I see and watch, I don't consider that to be music neither. I consider that to be entertainment. For me, this is more like I like the word circus. You see, but it's entertainment, and that's why people are interested in it. You have like what in the school courtyard. I mean, I'm making this up. In the school court, you being a young person, you go on the phone, and there's somebody like doing this incredible slap. And recently, somebody sent me something incredible where I just like my mouth dropped, and it was like, oh my god, look at the proficiency of this. And it was fascinating, and it was entertaining, and it was a very sort of a circus piece, and that's cool. That's fine, and some people even make a living with it. That's fine too. But that's, for me personally, that is not what my interest in music is. But because the key point, if I have a key point I'm trying to make, for me, music was always about collaboration. And what I see is a lot of people who get really, really good on their own at home in their bedroom or their parents' garage, and they're very good in a sort of isolated, ideal situation, and they create what they create, which can be very entertaining. That never quite interested me, particularly as a bass player. As a bass player, I'm looking for cohesion with other musicians, and I can't get that on my own at home. You know what I mean? So I need to go out. And we all know that at the moment there's this sort of trend that bands become less and less. So all they're like a big artist, they're all solo artists. They're not bands. Yeah. Because a band is a little bit against our zeitgeist. Band means other people. Band means collaboration. Band is not like it's all about me. It's not all about the individual. And me as a bassist, I like other people to make music with me, and I like to play bass for other people to make them sound good. And what I see on TikTok is for me like a niche that is, okay, here's some good entertainment of people that have an enormous proficiency, not my interest in music, because who wants to see somebody play, something very simple, played really tasteful and well? Nobody has the time for it,
No.
So it's, very sweeping statement. There are differences. There's, for example, what's his name? Davey 504. Do you know him?
No.
Davey 504. I think he's Italian. He's got probably the most successful YouTube bass channel in the world. He's got millions of followers. Okay. And what he does, he's I'm saying a very good bassist, and he's enormously entertaining. So I watch his channel. It would be like a good showcase for what you saying. You got to look him up because you will find it hilarious. He's got things like he's playing things like the stringless bass solo on a 10-string bass
Right.
without
Okay.
strings. And you go, that sounds pretty weird. And then you watch it and you laugh because it's very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Fourth thing it's called. So yeah, those were like my quick reductionist thoughts on that. I think I wouldn't go as far as like that shouldn't happen. I think it's good that it's happening. At the same time, there's so many subcultures. The subculture I belong to is like, I like to make music with other people, which sometimes might not be as like attractive to watch because it's just making music together and enjoying that, rather than the classic look at me, what I can do.
Yeah.
Look, Mom.
Yeah.
Unicycle. Woo!
So yeah, I mean, and so what are your thoughts on getting better? I mean, I can't go 45 minutes, 50 minutes without asking you that. How's getting better? What does it look like today versus what does it look like 20 years ago?
Well, I think getting better, I think we already touched on a few points. I have this sort of probably simplified philosophy, but the way you play is the way you are as a character. And also in terms of getting better, you can get better if you're doing it. And the more you're doing it, the better you get. And also you're really good, or people can get really good with the things they're doing on a steady basis. So, for example, if you want to be an amazing performer, that's what you gotta do day in, day out. And you can't be a great performer if you have I'm exaggerating, if you have a 9 to 5 job and then you're practicing really hard with your band, like, twice a week at the weekend, and then you're going out and you wonder, or you maybe don't even know that it doesn't quite sound like a professional band. And why is that? Because you kind of influenced, but then what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The long and short of that is, to get better, you got to do it as much as possible all the time to get really good. And if you hear the greats and you hear a great song and you hear histories of bands, the ones that we're lacking right now, maybe a little bit, how much time they've spent together to sound like they sound like they did. Like, I mean, if I'm taking classic rock bands, Van Halen, I don't know, Guns N' Roses, whatever, AC/DC, they spend a lot of time just doing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they did it on the side of something else. It's what they did.
Yeah.
And that makes you better. What you do is who you become. And you can't work as something else and then expect to be as good as somebody who does it all the time. So I think, well, it's always what I'm saying. It's the time. You need to give, if you want to get better, you need to give it your life. You gotta give it the time. You gotta put in, as they say, you gotta put in the hours. There's no other way around it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's almost like, it's stupidly simple, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But it is. I mean, in looking at really not from a micro, but from a macro level. That's it. Do it.
Yeah.
Get good at it.
Yeah.
Then the what becomes secondary. Then get to somebody like yourself. I'm sure you're a wonderful teacher. Go to somebody like you and get the nuts and bolts on how to do it. But the time, and as you know, you can only inspire because people need to run with it themselves. And you know that from your students or people's, you can try to open door for them. You can try to be inspiring, but if they're not biting, forget it. You can make some money with them, but they will never go anywhere because here's the thing, no shortcuts. And we live in a society where everybody wants everything yesterday without putting in the work, and go, hey, why does it not work? Well, yeah, because you've done this like maybe for a year, but probably you need 5 years.
Yeah.
And people leave it because it's too hard. But that's why we love the greats, because they really have spent time. They have spent the time with whatever proficiency they're good at or brilliant.
Yeah. No, I mean, I say this to my students all the time when they come in, and like I have one girl. She must be, I don't know, 10, 11. And she comes in every week, and she sits down and she just starts playing, and she goes, I suck at this. I'm terrible. I can't do it. And she does. And I did say to her, I said, look, everybody struggles at some point. Everybody hits a wall, and that's where they struggle. I said, unfortunately, you're struggling right at the beginning. It's like your rhythm and your timing is off. Like, we've really got to fix it before we can move on. And it's going to hurt. It's going to be boring because I've tried the fun way to get you to play rhythm, and you're not responding. So unfortunately, we're going to have to do the really dull way. and you're just going to put a click on and you're just going to be strumming up and down until it feels natural. I said, and also one thing is you've got to stop with the negative talk. You've got to stop saying that I suck. You've got to stop saying that you're shit at this, because that will literally feed back into you. It becomes a feedback loop. And you'll believe it, and then you'll practice it, and you'll believe it. You'll keep saying it, you'll believe it, and it will never get better. I said, so just try saying, if you want to say I suck, but I'm working towards improving. That's something that you can say to yourself. I said, but the really important thing is playing music is fucking hard. Nobody tells you that everyone thinks it's easy. But if it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would do it. You go and ask any 30, 40-year-old that can't play an instrument, would you like to play an instrument? 99% of them would say yes, but 99% of them don't want to do the really hard slog that you're doing now.
But that's absolutely, couldn't agree more. There's also like my belief system is that like everybody would like to be really absolutely marvelously good at something, music or whatever, but it's the fascinating bit is who's doing the work.
Yeah.
Who is prepared to do the work? Like if it's tennis or sportsman or neurosurgeon, it doesn't matter. You gotta put the work in. Yeah. And everybody love to be good at something, but that's why this is an important point. I'm not teaching right now, so I can afford some of my sort of hardline opinions, because if somebody will come to me right now and people something ask me, they go like, "Hey, Steph, can I just do you still lessons?" And I'm like, "No, but we can have a chat." And normally what I ask is like, they go, "Can I come for lesson?" And I go, "Why?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh yeah, but because I'm asking why, not because I want to be flippant and awkward, which I can be, unfortunately, but I'm asking why because hunger, you cannot instill in anyone. There needs to be an internal furnace that drives the want that you sit down and you get frustrated with yourself and you get over the bumps in the road and the difficulties because you want to, because you have the self-discipline to conquer difficult issues. And from teaching musicians, and I think we're all the same, music is or other disciplines, that some people don't want to face that moment of being very uncomfortable, that they can't conquer something. And some people, they sink and they leave it, they step away, they do something else. And I consider that to be good, because that means intrinsically they're not fighters for something. You know what I mean? And you do somebody a disservice, and I've seen it. I've taught hundreds of bassists when you try to lean on them and you're trying to help them, and ultimately they're not the right stock, and you're crushing their ego. And that's not what you want to do. You want to encourage people that have the intrinsic hunger to get over the line, and not everybody's like that. That's why you have like those tennis academies where they pick up the people and go, who can actually, not who's got, lots of people have talent, but who has the hunger and who can withstand the pressure, not from outside necessarily, but inside, that you go, when you're just on your own, it's a conversation with yourself. This is really hard. And you go, for God's sake, and you put the instrument away and I'm going to watch some Netflix because I'm or you go, come on, I can do
let's
this.
do it. Yeah.
That bit is the most important bit. And you can instill that in musicians, in sportsmen, in artists. That needs to be built in.
Yeah.
If it's built in, you as an educator, it's beautiful, because then you just giving the seeds and they keep on growing, because the student is the fertile soil. But you can't turn them into that. The hunger needs to be there.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I'm passionate about that, because I remember as an early tutor, I was very hard on I treated all the students the same, but characters are very different. And some people, they love to be pushed, and some other people, you crush them.
Yeah.
And I was really hard on some people, not in a nasty way, but just like really like, come on, you can do this. Realizing over time, no, not everybody can do it. And everybody also has a very different key to unlock. Some people, they need they need a gentle approach. Some people they like a harder kick up here, proverbial. And this is something to find out of a good educator. also where the keys are. But once you have the keys, the door that I always find unlocked, I've never met, maybe because I'm a bad educator, was a bad educator, is the hunger to excel in something. In this case, we're talking about music. It gotta be there. The fire needs to be there. Then you can help it, like, get into massive thing. But if it's not there, it never will be there.
Yeah. It's I think the process of learning something that's difficult is, for me, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the process. And just to come back, you said that you did badminton. I race go-karts.
Wow, how cool is that?
The start of the year, I did it religiously when I was a teenager. And when I started doing this as a job, having kids and stuff, it sort of fell away. And I kind of did it once a month. If I had a spare day, I was like, I'll go down to the track. Start of this year, I was like, something just clicked, and I'm just going to do this more regularly because I need an out. I need somewhere that I can go and do. That could be my thing, away from the kids, just a day to myself. And I thought I was pretty good. And I went to this track, and the manager said, you should come down on Thursday nights where we have members' nights. And all the members come down. We do a race for the members. So I was like, oh, okay. So I went down and I got fucking roasted. Absolutely destroyed. I'm like, and it was one of these moments, like the Dunning-Kruger. I think I'm pretty good, and this sharp fall back down to earth. I'm like, I'm 2 seconds slower than the guy that won, and I thought I was pretty good. I was like, right, okay,
good.
I've got some fucking work to do, and that's what I did. I just started coming down more regularly, and I started right, okay, turn 7. How are you doing turn 7? And the manager, I'll follow you around. He said, she was like, you're coming in, you're turning too early. Turn a bit later. And that will square you up for the exit, and you'll get, I was like, okay. And we turn by turn, second by second, I'm gaining on these people. And after 6 months, I'm within half a second of them. And one of the dudes messaged me yesterday, said, do you know what, mate? We've all seen your progress over the last 6 months. And it's fucking amazing to see, you're at the back in the summer, and now you're kind of contending towards the front. He said it's really cool. And but that process of right, I know I'm not as good as I thought I was. There's work to be done. Where am I weak? What do I need to work on? And it's the same thing with playing 2-5-1s. Where am I weak? I'm always weak on the 5 chord. So I need to work on the 5 chord. I'm fine with the 2. I'm fine with all the resolutions. Getting that altered sound to add even more tension than just using the Mixolydian mode. It just sounds like a bunch of shit. So that's what I need to work on if I want to make my 2-5-1s sound more convincing.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful story. I love that, the racing story as well. And that's you feeding my own narrative about my concept about the hunger, because other people probably would gone on, be in the back and go I'm just enjoying doing this. It's fine.
Yeah. I was like, I want to be at the front. I want to be. And that's what I want.
Saying. You obviously, that's exactly what I'm saying. You have hunger. You want to be good. You want to improve yourself, and that's innate.
Yeah.
You can't. I don't think you can teach that.
Yeah.
You gotta get ahead.
I wish we could.
You gotta get ahead more. No, but I think as educator or educators, you're doing also people a service to show them where they don't have the hunger. This is not a popular opinion, I suppose, when I say not everybody can do everything.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about financial background. I'm not talking about economics, where some people can't do certain things because the economics are not right. I'm talking about not everybody can do everything because, for certain things, they're not, ultimately, they don't have the right aptitude and hunger for it. If educators can help people to actually find out where people are hungry, so to speak. Sorry, I make a big meal of this hunger thing. And I said meal. That's terrible. Sorry, that wasn't intended. But I think that would be good education to go no, you can, if you want. It's also about goals again, coming to aiming goals. Somebody comes very young, goes, do you want to be a professional musician? Yes. Okay, if you want to be a professional musician, let's work together for a little bit, and then let's evaluate and see if this is actually for you a good path to go down. Or a race car driver, is this actually, is there enough there that you go, yeah, we're going to invest in that. We're going to invest in it from the outside, and you're going to invest in it because that's your life. You actually really get somewhere. And then if that's not the case, redirect them very early and not let people bark up the wrong tree their whole life,
Yeah.
Or they get to their late 20s and they realize, I'm actually, I've been a great pretender and I'm a bit tone deaf and I shouldn't be in this band. And now that the band is no longer, I need to make a living as a session musician. I can't because I don't have the skills. And then that's kind of, it's almost like you misled someone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
It kind of and that's not a popular opinion, particularly, if you're a commercial institution and on your spreadsheet it says you got to have house number, fixtures number. I need to have 100 bassists this year to make the course run. Then of course you're going to take 100 bassists if you can to make the course run. But maybe some people, if you take a more philosophical stance, which is tricky, there is tension.
Yeah.
Not everybody should be there.
Yeah.
But it's hard to turn them away if that's your business model, including yourself. I mean, your own money relates. Your own money is wrapped in with that. Because if you turn everybody away that shouldn't be quite there, then also a lot of people don't have a job neither. So I always thought there was an intrinsic tension between education and commerce.
Yeah.
Because there's crossover, but there's tension as well.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought some of the European conservatoires, it's probably these days are gone, when they have heard stories, I'm not sure if it was in Denmark or Sweden, where they turned people away and for a whole year there was an empty chair running in an education department for a student because it wasn't like they didn't have applicants, but the commission thought, whoever the committee was, that they didn't have somebody who they could really turn professional. So they rather had an empty chair run for a whole year until somebody would come along who is fully suited or had the belief, or the committee believed that this person could be a professional musician. That's quite phenomenal. But also economically, it's just, nearly too hard to do, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that if I get a student that comes in and I just think, no, do you know what? If I get a student that comes in and I think they're not going to be, they can't play in a band, they're going to struggle, I then have to look at, okay, well, what could they do? Could they just busk along to a record? Yeah, maybe they could busk along to a record. So maybe that's the goal that I'll set them. I won't tell them that. I'll just internalize that goal and think, right, if I can get them to play along to a record, great. And maybe that's all they want to do. Maybe that's all they want to be able to do. But if they come in with a deep desire that they want to be a professional musician and I think they're not going to cut it, would I tell them? I think I would be doing them a disservice by saying, look, I don't think you're going to cut it. But then heating needs to be paid.
That's what I'm saying.
But then if you said, look, I don't think you're going to cut it, but I think you could go down to a local blues jam and hold your own. And I think maybe that's the ceiling for you.
Well, I assume when you have new students that you ask them why they want to do it. I think some people come in and some more mature students will come in I just want to enjoy myself, or I want to play with my mates for Christmas, or I want to play down the local boozer, or some other people say, I just can you help me to pass my grade 3, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The most common answer to that is, I don't know. When I get new students, why are you here? Why do you want to play?
What do you mean, I don't know?
I don't know. Why are you here? My mum signed me up. Okay, why did your mum sign you up? I don't know. I was like, right, okay, so now I've got the job of trying to inspire you to enjoy music as well as teaching you how to play it.
But it's very...
Fucking hell.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. See, that's when we're saying some of the ideas we discussed, they're obviously, there's some good thoughts here, I think, especially from you. And that for more mature, older people, that makes a lot of sense. But, when you work in with children, then it gets tricky because they don't know.
Yeah.
And then you said it really well. Now you have a double job.
Yeah.
You got to get him some proficiency in an instrument, but you also gotta open the world of music in itself to them. It's whoa.
So yeah, I had one.
Gone up.
Yeah, I know. I had one kid and I said to them, most of them don't listen to music as well, which is odd because music is so easily available that most children aren't listening to music. So I gave one kid a list of 3 albums. Go away and listen to these and tell me what you think. I gave him Van Halen 1, What's the Story, Morning Glory, and Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan. And
that's good.
And I said, you've got a week. You take the bus to school. You can put your earphones in. You can listen to probably an album on the way there and then an album on the way home. And after a week, I said, what did you think? And he was like, I was like, all right, you didn't, like, Eruption didn't do anything for you. You know, nothing, didn't spark anything. He was like, no. I said, I like this song. This song's all right. I like this. This was okay. He said, I like the Morning Glory album. I could listen to that. I was like, right, anything like really latch onto you? And he's like, no. I was like, okay, so all right, I'll give you 3 more albums. So it's
wow, you know, that makes me really like, no, that's like.
But I don't know, if you're not getting grabbed by those 3 albums, I don't know, maybe nothing's going to grab you. But
wow, yeah, that's, you know,
it's a challenge.
It's good that you're doing it, because I think for me now, like, I think my patience for that is probably has expired.
Yeah,
you know, but you said Eruption. This is a quick story. When I went to school, I had my mom and dad, they gave me this tape player with a built-in alarm clock, and I had the solo, the beginning of Eruption, cued on a cassette tape, and you had it in play mode, and when the alarm kicked off, it wasn't the alarm clock, it started the tape.
Yeah. So you woke up to Eruption.
I think for 2 years when I went to school, I woke up to that solo. That was my morning.
Yeah.
And that's when I hear it. Every time I hear it, I'm like, because it's like Pablo Stoga, like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, but I thought it was so riveting. I always found it hard to get up in the morning as a kid. But when I discovered that trick, you know, it was magical. That really got me out of bed. And every time I hear it, it just puts the biggest smile on my face. And that's
nice.
I'm sorry, I'm just telling the story because you went, hey, Eruption, nothing
from Eruption. No, okay.
Oh, it's all right, you know.
Yeah. I don't know, but I still remember it, like, and it still evokes that feeling of just like, what the fuck is that? Like, what is that? What is that noise that's coming out? I've not had anything like it.
I had a moment of nostalgia, and I watched on YouTube a show they did. I think it was sometime in the 70s, and it was like an enormous crowd. I think something like 60, maybe more, 60,000 people, 80,000 people. And the show was so riveting, and I couldn't get over, it seems such a simple, obvious thing. I couldn't get over the fact there was there was a little bit of a stage, there was a light show, but it was these 4 dudes. That's it. And they were playing between 60 and 80,000 people, I estimate, and they were rinsing it, and I go, oh my God, just by like 4 guys, you know what I mean? In front of like 60,000 people, but it was so exciting, you know. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
and they did it with such ease. They were almost like, you know, they're strolling around in a rehearsing room, you know, but they're like massive somewhere, you know.
I mean, the thing with Van Halen is it's not only was like Eddie Van Halen just like a groundbreaking guitar player, they were just like so consistent with writing great albums. It's like it wasn't just like the Eddie Van Halen show with 3 other guys just sprinkled around to showcase his guitar playing. It was like just a phenomenal vocalist, just great songs and just great albums, and the whole thing just seemed to come together. And
well, they were just back to the band thing. They were a phenomenal band, and you know that you needed those 4 guys to be that band.
Yeah, if any other 4 guys wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. Sure, absolutely.
Because, like, when you watch, like, and I've got nothing against Joe Satriani, but when you watch Joe Satriani or hear Joe Satriani playing Van Halen, it's like it's not working.
I don't know that. I haven't seen that, but I can imagine that. Yeah, because you can't then, if you just take the guitar playing out of context, then it is like not.
And he was just such a character as well.
Yeah.
I mean, him and David Lee Roth were just such characters. And but yeah, anyway, I mean, I could sit and just like, same with the Beatles. The Beatles spent 4 fucking years in Germany touring the clubs and just playing every single fucking night.
Well, here we back to what I said about how you spend your time will manifest itself in your skill. I mean, it's how it's manifested. I mean, and I'm sure you've seen the 3-parter. Is it called Get It? Have you seen that about the Beatles?
I saw the.
Or did you see the, what's it called, 1, 2, 3 with Rick Rubin, the Paul McCartney and Rick Rubin one?
No, I didn't see that. I saw one of the Beatles documentaries. Was it Get Back?
Yeah, the one is the 3-parter.
Yeah.
at first they start to get together and put a show on, and in the end they're like in Apple Studios.
Yes, yeah.
And when you hear them playing together, they were like they were singular organism, so beautiful.
Yeah.
With all the tension, but it was all part of the universe, all the little sub stories, but the whole story in itself, beautiful. Huh?
Yeah.
Coming back to bands, yeah. So I'd like to see more bands. Send your students into bands. Make bands.
I know, but
it's to play with other people. You probably
I think. I mean, I think like I don't know if it's like I say to my daughter, like, are you going out at all? Like, she's 13. Like, are you going out to see friends? She's like, nope. I was like when I was 13, 14, you couldn't keep me in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I was always out.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to go out. She doesn't have friends over. I was like, fair enough. I can get that. But surely you want to go out. She's like, no. So maybe it's harder to get kids into bands. Maybe social media has conditioned them to just be in this isolated little bubble, and they don't want to go out. They don't want to socialize because they're doing it digitally.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm absolutely no expert in that whatsoever. I have no skills in that, and sometimes I ask myself, is it because, and I hear this a lot from my friends with children or teenagers, that we kind of aspire to this generation to behave in similar ways than we have. Is it that, or is there actually really something negative in that behavior, or is it just our own nostalgia that we think, hey, why don't you do what I've done when I was your age?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There's probably a bit of both in it.
Yeah. But it's obviously having some kind of, it has to have a negative impact, not socializing.
Yeah, no, I mean, well it's clearly obvious that that there's a lot of social inaptness. I always think that going to pubs when they have young staff, like people that just still in school or still in university, and sometimes they're like, gosh, they go, in a pub as well or a restaurant. It's a social environment, right? You suspect that people with social skills will be hired.
Yeah.
Forget proficiency in knowing about stuff, but just like social skills, times I really go, wow, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Can they ever talk to anyone? You know what I mean? Sort of like the base thing. You go somewhere and you just try to have like, this sort of like, standard social interaction, very light, hello, chat.
Yeah.
All I'm there to is like order a drink or order some food, but sometimes it feels really awkward.
Yeah.
Like it's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
I don't know. I think that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, that definitely.
Yeah, but listen, Stefan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are, and it was a great chat. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for you making time for me, because I'm sure you have a busy practice in your family and all the other things you're doing. So I appreciate you taking time talking to me. So thank you.
No problem. All right, thanks very much. We'll speak soon.
We will. Let me know when it's out, and I'll help you sharing it.
Will do.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day now.
You too.
Back
See you
to
later.
the race course.
Yeah.
All right.
See you later.